Firefighters put down blaze at beloved Bigfoot Museum in California. The remnants of a beloved Bigfoot museum in California were saved from going up in smoke over the weekend as firefighters put down a blaze that erupted at the property. According to a local media report, the incident occurred Sunday night on the grounds of the shuttered Bigfoot Discovery Museum in the community of Felton when a small cabin situated next to the main building burst into flames. The structure has been the residence of owner Michael Rugg, who fortunately managed to escape the perilous situation with only minor burns. Well, I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad the building was saved, was spared. It's unfortunate that he had to shut it down, but at least the building is still there. Now, what are they going to do with the building, and what are they going to do with what was inside it? All of the items that were inside, what are they going to do with those? Where are they going to go? Nobody seems to know at this point. Hopefully they'll go to a good home. And maybe the building can be turned into some sort of a historical landmark or something. Who knows? Wouldn't that be interesting? A former Bigfoot museum, which is now a historical landmark. That'd be kind of cool. How the attempt to sequence Bigfoot's genome went badly off track. Humans interbred with an unknown hominin in Europe, then crossed the Bering Sea. Say what? When we first looked at the report of the Bigfoot genome, this is from 2013, so this is about the Ketchum study was released in November of 2012, and this was July 2013. When we first looked at the report of the Bigfoot genome, it was not a mixture of things. Standard methods and reasonable-looking data thrown in with unusual approaches and data that should have raised warning flags for any biologist. We just couldn't figure out the logic of why certain things were done or the reasoning behind some of the conclusions the authors reached. So we spent some time working with the reported genome sequences themselves and talked with the woman who helped put the analysis together, Dr. May Ketchum. While it didn't answer all of our questions, it gave us a clearer picture of how the work came to be. The biggest clarification made was what the team behind the results considered their scientific reasoning, which makes sense of how they ran past warning signs that they were badly off track. It provided an indication of what motivated them to push the results into a publication that they knew would cause them grief. Melba Ketchum and the Bigfoot Genome. The public face of the Bigfoot genome has been Melba Ketchum, a Texas-based forensic scientist. She's not a forensic scientist, I don't think. I think she's a veterinarian. That's about all she is. It was Ketchum who first announced that the genome was in the works, and she was the lead author of the paper that eventually described it. That paper became the one and only publication of the online journal De Novo. It's still the only one to appear there. The paper itself is an odd mix of things. There's a variety of fairly standard molecular techniques mixed in with a bit of folklore and a link to a YouTube video that reportedly shows a sleeping Sasquatch. In some ways, the conclusions of the paper are even odder than the video. They suggest that Bigfoot aren't actually an unidentified species of ape as you might have assumed. Instead, the paper claims that Bigfoot are hybrids, the product of humans interbreeding with a still unknown species of hominin. As evidence, it presents two genomes that purportedly came from Bigfoot samples. The mitochondrial genome, a small loop of DNA that's inherited exclusively from mothers, is human. The nuclear genome, which they've only sequenced a small portion of, is a mix of human and other sequences. Some are closely related, others quite distant. Yeah, I won't go much further than that. I'll let y'all read the article for yourselves. I'm going to link it in the description below. But saying that she's a forensic scientist is like saying I weigh 185 pounds. It's ridiculous. Absolute rank insanity if you think that Melba Ketchum is a forensic scientist. Unless this article was basically giving her the benefit of the doubt, which is entirely possible. She ain't no forensic scientist. I got news for you. She's a veterinarian. That's about all she is. A true forensic scientist would know that what they were doing was absolutely ridiculous. I would definitely recommend, highly recommend, everybody read Haskell Hart's excellent book, The Sasquatch Genome Project, to get a better perspective on where Melba Ketchum went wrong. Now here's one with a headline that seems like it would belong in a tabloid of some sort, but it's actually from the dailymail.com. Bigfoot's shocking sex secret revealed by expert who has studied the mythical creature. Well, first of all, there are no Bigfoot experts. Let's just get that out of the way. New revelations from, we'll say, scientists, not experts, reveal a surprising twist in Bigfoot lore, suggesting that elusive creatures may be females, as they are deeply captivated by children and seemingly have a maternal nature. For years, thousands have debated Bigfoot's existence, with some finding themselves caught up in the hype over possible momentary sightings, and others simply dismissing the beast as mere legend. Though through testimonies personally vetted by researchers, not experts, I hate when they say experts, discovered nesting areas and repeated footprints, however, seasoned Sasquatch researchers have uncovered compelling evidence suggesting that the legendary creatures may not only exist, but could be female. Lots of reports suggest they're females. Jeff Meldrum, one of the most prominent figures in Bigfoot research, told DailyMail.com. You know, it's a maternal instinct, a particular interest in children. Several researchers revealed fascinating discoveries through their own personal investigations and experiences, some of which paints the elusive creature as a curious motherly entity rather than a scary beast. Okay, did Meldrum actually say this, or was he misquoted? That's my question. Are all Sasquatch allegedly female? That doesn't make any sense. Because if that's true, then where did all the population come from? It just doesn't make any sense to me. To say that all of them are female. Like I say, Dr. Meldrum could have been misquoted. And I'm going to ask him about it at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, by the way, because he's going to be there in 2 weeks. Actually, 1 week. I'm sorry. He's going to be there in 1 week. So I'm going to ask him myself if he was misquoted and said that Sasquatch are all female. Because that's what this article seems to be implying. There would have to be males. You can't have a viable population of these things without there being males. They can't be all female. That's kind of stretching the limits of credibility to say that they're all female. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, we've all heard the stories of Sasquatch allegedly being attracted to kids. That's why some researchers go out in the woods with recordings of children and recordings of crying babies. They believe that's a good way to attract Sasquatch to them. I don't know. It's just kind of strange to me. It really is that Jeff Meldrum would say something like that. I don't believe he said it. Now I imagine when I ask him about it, he'll probably correct the record. I'm sure he'll set the record straight. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to be asking him about it for sure. Dual witness Bigfoot sighting reported in Kansas. A pair of friends riding a scooter along a Kansas road stopped in their tracks when they spotted a suspected Sasquatch walking through a field. Witness Warren Fink recently reported the strange sighting said to have occurred on March 24th near the community of Hoyt with the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO. According to his account, the duo was cruising down a remote rural road around dusk when his friend noted a strange figure walking along a barbed wire fence in the field up ahead of them. Fink initially scoffed at the suggestion that they were seeing Sasquatch, arguing that it was probably one of those metal Bigfoot signs. However, his assessment of the situation quickly changed when he noticed that the cutout was moving. Upon reaching the fence line, the pair could see the creature now approximately 60 yards away in the field and realized that it was an actual Bigfoot. Fink recalled that the suspected Sasquatch stood around 7 to 8 feet tall, sported a conical head, and was covered in black hair. Seemingly unconcerned with the two people watching it, including their attempts to call out to the creature, it continued walking along the fence line, stopping once to look back at the pair before disappearing over the crest of a hill. Looking back on the experience, Fink marveled. My friend and I looked at each other and said, "What the hell did we just see?" Now, Kansas is not one of those states you automatically think of when you think Sasquatch, obviously. I imagine there's quite a bit of forest and quite a bit of cover in Kansas, but there's no mountains. So let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic about this report. Now, I remember a researcher years ago, he's probably no longer in research. His name was Matt Dennis. He was from Kansas, and he was a researcher into Sasquatch in his home state. And he and I corresponded, and he would send me his newsletter. Like I said, I'm very cautiously optimistic about any possible reports out of Kansas. Kansas is more known for tornadoes than they are for Sasquatch, obviously. But I don't rule it out necessarily. But time will tell if this pair of friends actually saw something or may have been misidentifying something else. All about Bigfoot. Audience shares stories of sightings and evidence. Bigfoot researcher Mark Marcel holds up a giant footprint cast while telling stories about the creature at Schaefer State Park on March 29th. Bigfoot appeared at Schaefer State Park Saturday in historical and contemporary accounts retold by Mark Marcel, a land surveyor who has been researching the creature for over 30 years. Marcel spoke as part of the interpretive series sponsored by Friends of Schaefer and Lake Sylvia State Parks. Marcel was born in 1966 and grew up in a Renaissance age of the unexplained in pop culture, he said. As he got older, he realized land surveying skills could help with research of the unexplained, he said, for example, collecting field evidence. He started collecting old stories of Sasquatch and reinvestigating the tales. The story that got Marcel involved in the Bigfoot community happened near Mount St. Helens in the summer of 1924. A group of miners staying in a remote cabin said they were attacked by rock-throwing, 7-foot tall hairy ape men. The youngest, a guy named Leroy Smith, was coming back from a spring, and there was this big individual coming out of the brush that is a big 6 or 7 foot tall, hair-covered creature, Marcel said. That was the first encounter. A few days later, Smith sees the creature again near the cabin and shoots. The men inside ran out and pumped around 16 shots into the beast, according to the story. The creature either crouched down or fell down into the canyon, which was only about 10 or 15 feet away, Marcel said. The cabin was attacked that night. A massive impact shook the structure, and the men saw in the moonlight 6 or 7 of these creatures. They called them mountain devils, according to Marcel. These 6 individuals all night long tried to bust their way into the cabin. The guys blockade the door, and the creatures are up on top of the roof trying to beat their way in, throwing rocks and stones, he said. In the morning, the miners found rocks scattered around the area and huge footprints. Later, a reporter visited the cabin and said he found evidence that something that night was trying to dig under the foundation to get to these guys, according to Marcel. Canyon near the reported attack is now known as Ape Canyon. Now, I thought the name of Ape Canyon was from a Boy Scout troop, not because of the possible Sasquatch activity in that area. We've all heard conflicting stories as to why it's called Ape Canyon. It's quite a fascinating case, and Mark Marcel has been the foremost investigator into it. He even found the site of the cabin itself, the cabin where the miners stayed. He found that several years ago. He wrote a little booklet about it, and he's actually writing a full-length book about the case as well. I would love to get that book and read it for sure. But like I said, it's one of the most fascinating cases that's ever come about in the Sasquatch history. So if you ever get a chance to hear Mark Marcel speak, take that chance. And finally, here's something interesting and possibly cryptozoological. Colossal squid captured in first confirmed footage of one of the deep ocean's most elusive giants. This is pretty recent. I just saw this on the news the other night. Actually, last week. Scientists say they have captured the first confirmed live footage of the colossal squid, one of nature's most elusive, gigantic creatures in its natural habitat. The new footage, obtained during a recent Schmidt Ocean Institute expedition in the South Atlantic Ocean, offers an unprecedented look at the world's largest known squid species, and marks a major milestone in deep-sea exploration. The juvenile colossal squid, Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni, was spotted during explorations at a depth of close to 600 meters near the South Sandwich Islands. Although biologists formally identified the species a century ago, the unprecedented sighting represents the first time one of the deep-sea giants has been filmed in its natural habitat. Accompanying the footage of the youthful colossal squid, the SOI team also obtained the first ever recording of another species of glass squid, an additional first that showcases not only how little is known about life in Earth's deep southern ocean, but also how quickly technology is advancing in current exploration efforts. So that's pretty cool. Now they got footage of this squid, which is not really cryptozoological because it's already been established. But it's the first time it's ever been filmed. So you might consider that a bit cryptozoological. Pretty interesting looking squid too, isn't it? Its first confirmed footage. Of course, it's not the first footage of the giant squid, of live giant squid. That was by Doug Hychick. But still, it's pretty cool. And that's going to do it for this week. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it. And I'll continue to do this because you guys want me to. And for the past decade, I've been doing this, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm going to continue to do it. Now, as I mentioned last week, there will be no show next week, but there will be a show, a special compilation of videos and photos from the 2025 Ohio Bigfoot Conference. That's going to be the week after next. But there won't be a show next week. So until 2 weeks from now, y'all be good or be good at it. This is HBM's Cryptid-Corner.